Welcome, everyone. I'm so excited to have you here this evening. And we're going to be talking all about overcoming chronic health issues. And this is a big topic, right? Because chronic health issues, I would say it's the thing that people come to see me the most for, right? It's something that's been happening for a long time and you haven't quite figured it out, right? So, what's the root cause? Being the detective, feeling frustrated, wondering why this is happening to you, right? I hear that a lot. Why is this happening? Why can't we figure out what's going on? So, we're going to be talking about how to overcome those chronic health issues today. Oh, thanks, Clarissa, for the thumbs up. I'm glad you can see me and hear me. So, yes, we're going to be talking about that tonight and a little bit about me. So, if you're new to tuning in to my webinars, I have them once a month or different themes. This is the past two have been a lot about chronic health and root causes because I'm really trying to help you understand what it is about the root cause, right? It's not about just treating the symptoms. We need to figure out what's going on at that deep level. So I'm Dr. Lulu. I'm a functional medicine expert and naturopathic physician. I've been practicing medicine since 2015, and I've been in the holistic wellness industry for about 20 years. I was a massage therapist first, and then I did some herbal training and aromatherapy training, and then I really wanted to help people at a different level. That's when I decided to go to naturopathic medical school in Seattle, Washington at Bastyr University. I graduated in 2015 in Seattle, and then my husband and I moved to Asheville, where we live now. And I have a telehealth practice. I see patients all over the world, helping them to really figure out what's going on. My specialty is women's health, gut health, skin, a lot of mental health issues, depression, anxiety. So that's the things that I specialize in the most. But I do see patients in other realms as well. I do functional medicine lab testing, so working with hormone testing, digestive testing, genetics, looking at micronutrient testing. So we want to really see again what's happening at that root level, at the cellular level. So, what can you expect today? So, we're going to talk about transformative insights into healing chronic health issues, right? What does that even mean? What does it look like to have a chronic health issue even going on, right? And we're going to look at science-backed strategies to reclaim your energy and vitality, right? Not just a one pill fix all type of thing, because that's not what it is. When you've had a chronic health condition for a long period of time, you can think it's not going to go away just like that. It is possible, right? That you can have this huge shift. I've seen it happen with patients overnight, but usually, more commonly, it takes a little while to clear something from the system, especially if you've had it since birth or you've had it for 10 years, right? So let's say someone comes in, they say, oh, I've had constipation since I was a child. Then we have to really get to the root cause, and that might take a while to retrain your system to tell the cells what's really going on or retrain them, right? And let them have a new communication pathway. So we're going to have a deep dive into autoimmune conditions, gut health, and hormone balance, right? Really talking about those. And then I'll take questions at the end. Please, if you have questions, feel free to pop them over in the chat, and sometimes I'll answer them during the webinar, especially if it's relevant. Other times I'll just save them to the end. Okay, so let's set an intention for this session. I'd love for you to I'm going to close my eyes as well. If we can just take a moment and let's just ground ourselves into the session today. So if we can close our eyes and let's all take a nice deep breath in and let it out. Just let go of anything that happened in your day today. Just let it go. Be present. Come into the present moment. Take another nice big breath in and exhale out. Letting go of anything holding you back today from learning about something that could be a key to helping you, allowing you to receive information at a new level, a new way. So let's get started. So let's talk about if you're stuck in a cycle of chronic symptoms. If you have been working with me a while, you might be familiar with this. I call it like the tape loop, right? It's a loop inside your body. You get stuck in almost this hamster wheel of the chronic symptoms happening over and over again, and you can't seem to step out of that wheel, right? So you feel like you're constantly battling health challenges with no clear answers. It's right. You're like, this comes up, There's no answer to it. That comes up. There's no answer, right? It's like this constant battle. And then those symptoms, it's an onion effect, layer effect, right? Those symptoms start to build on each other and it just seems like they layer on, right? And that's when things become in that chronic level. Your days become unpredictable, right? Some manageable, like you're like, okay, oh wow, I felt better today. And then you totally crash and you have another like horrible day. Other days like filled with fatigue, pain, or discomfort that really holds you back from living your full life, right? Your life to every moment of the fullest, doing your wildest dreams. And you're really not alone. If you're tuning in and thinking like, oh yeah, this kind of sounds like me, put a thumbs up in the chat. If that sounds like you're not alone, right? I help so many patients with these same things, right? That's why most of the time you or other patients are coming to me and other naturopathic doctors like myself because we want answers, right? We want that functional medicine root cause. What's happening in the body? And tonight we're going to be diving into real solutions to help you understand about how to reclaim your vitality. Thumbs up. Thanks, Andy. Okay. So signs your body is struggling with chronic health issues. This is important, right? How do we know? Okay, look at all these. I was putting these things together for you tonight, and I was like, there's a lot of things, right? So let's talk it through. Don't be overwhelmed with this slide. It's a big one. But so, one, constant fatigue. I think this is almost every single person that comes in to see me has fatigue because you can think when your body is not functioning at full level, that battery is not fully charged, you're going to feel drained, right? So, feel drained even after a full night's sleep. You're like, oh my gosh. I slept all night and I still feel tired. That's how I felt this morning. I had to get up really early today at 3 in the morning. And so I'm like, oh man, I slept, but I'm still tired. But it might be getting up early. But yes, having that full night's sleep and then you still feel tired. So common. Digestive distress. Whoo, big one, right? Everything begins in the gut. Bloating, gas, constipation, or diarrhea without a clear cause. We can't quite figure out why. Like, where did the bloating come from? Is it a food sensitivity? Where did the gas come from? How did the constipation start? Why am I always constipated, right? Or why do I always have diarrhea no matter what I eat, right? A lot of those digestive symptoms. Brain fog, struggling with focus, memory, mental clarity. You can't seem to like get the words, right? They're just like, oh my gosh, what was the name of that person? Or what was I supposed to be doing? I went into the other room and I forgot everything. And then I had to retrace my steps. Being able to read simple things, right? The dullness, the cognition, the memory, aching joints and inflammation, really common. The inflammaging is the new kind of like word. It's like inflammation is the ultimate ager. And persistent pain, stiffness, or swelling, right? And those are things that's a big sign that the red flag, something's happening in your body. It's not happy, right? You're like, wow, get out of bed. You're like so stiff, trying to move around, right? You're like, oh man, that feels sore. And I'm like, oh, my whole body feels sore, almost like you have the flu, right? Skin issues, so rashes, eczema, or unexplained breakouts. Again, the gut is a reflection, or the skin is a reflection of what's going on in the gut. So we mentioned earlier, digestive distress. So if you're having that digestive distress, you're going to totally have skin issues, redness on the face, redness on the skin. You'll see eczema, psoriasis, elbows, knees, breakouts on the shoulders, the back, the face, the neck. Those are common. Food sensitivities, I mentioned these earlier. Reactions to common foods. So some of the main foods that people react to are gluten, dairy, corn, sugar, wheat, right? Eggs, sometimes there'll be some of the meat products. What happens is you have this dysbiosis in the gut, the microbiome changes, and then you develop reactions to common foods that you probably weren't having reactions before. You develop allergies, food sensitivities, or intolerances where you're like, I can't even eat that, or my body just goes to hell, right? Sleep disruption. So difficulty falling or staying asleep. So you're like that wired and tired. You're like, wow, it's midnight and I'm so wired. I could stay up all night. Or you fall asleep maybe you go to sleep at 10 and then you're like, Like 1 o'clock, wide awake. Oh my God, what's happening? And usually see that patients will have the same time that they wake up every night. Up 2 o'clock, that's my time I wake up, and then they can't go back to sleep. It's usually more like 3. Drop over in the chat if that sounds familiar to you. Do you have a time that you wake up every night the same time and you can't go back to sleep? Let's see if that's common out there. Emotional imbalances. Oh, these are big. Mood swings, anxiety, or just feeling off, right? You're like, oh, I just don't feel like myself. I feel like I woke up in somebody else's clothes, right? And mood swings because you don't really have that stability. The neurotransmitters off, the hormones are off. So some of the comments we had were 6 a.m. That's a big one. That's usually time when a lot of people start to get up in the morning. And then that 2 to 3 a.m. Yeah, Clarissa, that's a big one. I see that's common as well. Immune conditions. So recurring symptoms linked to immune dysfunction. Thyroid is very common, right? And other autoimmune conditions like autoimmune psoriasis or like Hashimoto's, all of those things. Hormonal imbalances, right? Unexplained weight gain, especially as we enter the perimenopausal years, which can be from 30 through 50 and up. Cycle irregularities. So missed cycles, heavy bleeding, having cycles, a long cycle or a short cycle, having extreme PMS and low energy during the cycle or after the cycle or before the cycle, right? Those big signs that your hormones are not functioning regularly or in sync, in balance. And then weakened immunity. So frequent colds, infections, or slow healing. That would be for a wound, for instance. Say you get a cut on your arm and you're like, wow, it took 3 weeks for that to heal. So that's a sign that your body is taking those immune cells and using them in a different way to another part of the body, right? Maybe you're having an autoimmune condition and your body's fighting itself. It's those white blood cells are doing something else or they're elevated, right? So we see that in blood work, we'll see an elevated white blood cell count, WBC. Ooh, that was a lot, right? So when we look at this slide together, we can see, wow, all these things. What if you went through here and you checked off a lot of them as we were going through? I want you to think about, okay, these are signs that my body's in a chronic disease state. And so I need to look deeper. So, unlocking healing, the power of our specialized dietary protocol. So, I want to talk to you about what that looks like in how we look at food in relationship to chronic disease. So it's a targeted approach to healing, number one, when we look at diet, nutrition, and a chronic disease state. So the protocol that I use, our protocol removes common inflammatory triggers while restoring gut balance. So again, removing those inflammatory foods, which I'm going to go through with you, and the reducing symptoms. So once we remove those inflammatory foods, the goal is to reduce a lot of those symptoms that we were seeing on the previous slide here, right? Reducing some of these digestive disorders, reducing some of the aching joints and inflammation, reducing some of the skin issues, reducing some of the food sensitivities. All of these things here can be shifted with food, but those are some of the big ones. And then supporting overall, supporting overall wellness for lasting health transformation, right? Once we remove things in the body, then with food, we can reintroduce them and see how the body reacts and if there is a shift and change for sustainable eating, right? Things that make you feel good in a sustainable lifestyle. Okay, so nut free. Let's talk about nuts. So nuts can have a lot of reactions for people because of the enzymes needed for digesting those nuts. So one, minimizing allergic reactions with sensitivities, taking those nuts out and then bringing them back in. I have a patient and one time we were having such a hard time trying to figure out what was causing our food sensitivity. So I was like, let's just do a trial and let's eliminate all nuts. We did pecans and walnuts and peanuts and pumpkin seeds. And then we started to reintroduce them one by one. And we found out that pecans were actually her trigger. And that's not as a common food sensitivity. And she'd been eating them in all different ways, like granola and all different things. So it's even nut milk. So nuts is a really important place for us to look at, especially if you're addressing an autoimmune condition. Doing the autoimmune paleo diet removes nuts. Or we can do a food elimination diet and removing those nuts and then bringing them back in after the body has time to heal, after 21 to 3 months, depending on the particular person and what's going on in the body. Prevents cross reactivity with other foods. So a lot of times when we remove nuts, it'll prevent a cross reactivity. And that means that some foods will, when you eat both of them together, it creates a reaction. So when we eliminate those nuts, it can show us, one, if there were sensitivities happening, and two, remove a cross reaction. Number three, it supports a balanced immune response. So again, if we're having our body go into an inflammatory response, and eating, for instance, nuts and triggering that inflammatory response through cytokines, inflammation cells, right? That's going to trigger the body and put us into that inflammatory state. Dairy free. This is a huge one. I would probably say, I don't know, maybe 75% of the patients that I work with, we eliminate dairy in the beginning. Not everyone, but most of when we do an elimination diet or we're working on a protocol where we're addressing the chronic disease state, we remove that dairy because it's so commonly known as an inflammatory part of the diet. Like it causes inflammation. So eliminating casein and lactose, these are common inflammation triggers. It reduces mucus buildup and congestion. That's the one that I notice the most myself. It reduces mucus buildup and congestion within myself when I stop it. It promotes clearer skin. A lot of times patients will remove dairy from the diet, and within even just a week, they can see change in their skin, and improves digestion because they've been having this bloating, constipation, or diarrhea. And aids in repairing leaky gut, which is so important. Put a little, an emoji over in the chat if you have problems with dairy. Your favorite, maybe your favorite or least favorite emoji. Let's see what you guys say about that. Okay, and then supporting your body with clean nutrition. Again, we're talking about the foods that can be removed to help with inflammation. Okay, so soy. Soy is a huge one. I see that particularly with hormone conditions. So avoiding phytoestrogens that may disrupt hormone balance. Soy is a big one. And it's not, if you eat a soy occasionally, it's probably not going to disrupt your hormones that much, right? But for instance, if you're eating a lot of soy products, if you're a vegetarian or vegan, you're eating a lot of tofu, or you're drinking soy milk, or you're eating a lot of soybeans, or maybe you're using a lot of soy sauce. There's a lot of things that have soy in them. Eliminates exposure to common GMOs. So genetically modified soy is huge with that. It's a highly genetically modified food group. So eliminating that can help decrease your toxic load and reduces potential thyroid interference. Studies have shown that that soy can cause thyroid interference, especially in the autoimmune state. Hashimoto's or Graves' disease. So a lot of times I'll make sure that patients are eliminating soy. So that's a good one to try eliminating. And then supports optimal endocrine function. So it's really important if you're working on the endocrine system, the glands, the pancreas, the thyroid, all our endocrine system, working with balancing blood sugar, eliminating soy can then help support that system. Okay, and then eggs. This is another huge category. A lot of times I'll see that patients say add a little bit of egg into vaccines. So patients that have had a lot of vaccines will sometimes develop a sensitivity to eggs, and that could be the egg yolk or the egg white or both. So preventing common allergic reactions and sensitivities, it lightens the load on the immune system because eggs are in so many different foods. So if you're reading the package, you're like, oh my gosh, and look at all these things on here. It's commonly used in foods. And then it aids in gut healing and digestive balance. So again, eliminating that target food will help to heal the gut. And then it removes potential cross-reactive proteins that may trigger inflammation. This is another one that, like nuts, that has cross-reactivity, especially with wheat and dairy. Gut health focused, right? So healing from the inside out. So we want to really look and see what's going on in the gut. So we want to promote, one, a diverse and resilient microbiome. And that's by eating all the colors of the rainbow. So red foods, these are fruits and vegetables, red fruits and vegetables, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, really having all the aspects of phytonutrients for the body that creates a diverse microbiome in the gut. It supports healing of intestinal permeability, aka leaky gut, and it reduces systemic inflammation for overall wellness, right? So when we're working on eliminating those target foods, we're going to see the inflammation reduced throughout the whole body. It enhances nutrient absorption. So important, right? So we're usually in a malabsorptive state. Our body is not absorbing those nutrients. So we're not having, it's like we're only getting a fraction or percentage of those nutrients into the system, into the gut. Nightshade free. So this is really common. I see this will help by eliminating nightshades if you have an autoimmune disease specifically, especially around joints and inflammation. So the nightshades are going to be the tomatoes, the peppers, the eggplants, the potatoes. Those are your nightshade plants. So it helps reduce joint pain and inflammation. It can eliminate the alkaloid compounds that may trigger sensitivities. It supports recovery from autoimmune conditions, like I mentioned, and minimizes digestive discomfort because it's really acidic in the system. Okay, so those are our main, and I didn't talk a lot about gluten and wheat, but those are two other, of course, categories of elimination, and sugar as well. So let's talk about a comprehensive approach, right? And we can see from this picture, one, we can see the fruits. We can see there's a little tape measure up at the top for weight, right? That's that scale. Like, how are we? How is our metabolism? How's our weight, our BMI? We can see there's some chia seeds there, right? From getting that protein, the mucilaginous. There's oil, getting those fats, a journal for taking notes, right? Recording what's going on in your body and being aware. Also, there's weights for resistance training, lots of things. In a structured program, we really want to make one that's designed to guide you step by step, right? Because as you saw from that previous slide, when there's so many things that are happening in chronic disease, we need to have a step-by-step process because otherwise we're like shooting darts at a board, just like maybe we're going to hit the bullseye. Are we going to hit it? We don't know, right? We want to be more specific and more in tune with what's going on. We want to address those root causes while optimizing our body's ability to heal. We want to clean the system out to allow that clean slate to come through, to allow that healing to start. Oops, it went backwards. I want to go backwards. Okay, there we go. So, introduction to root causes. Let's talk about root causes. So, we want to understand the foundations of chronic illness and what's really driving your systems, right? And that's really important. So that is done through, of course, like a health assessment or a first visit with me, really diving deep into the root causes. Why is this happening to your body? We look at the timeline through the history. We look at all the different aspects of we call them nodes in functional medicine. Like, for instance, the cardiovascular system, your structural system, your emotional system, your energy system, right? Your digestive system, your immune system. When we look at that, like on a wheel, where are you at? Are all those all the way out to the end, right? Are you out of, say, for example, the range was 1 to 5? Are you at a 5 in all categories? What areas of your body are out of balance? What's that root cause? Identifying personal trigger. So learning and uncovering what's affecting you. What's your trigger? Is it food, like we talked about? Is it sleep? Is it stress? Is it a combination of everything, right? Where are your foundations of health? Beginning that healing journey, we want to set the stage, right? And so in the beginning, sometimes we have to work slow, right? Because as your body is in that chronic disease state, it's toxic because you've been holding on to them physically, emotionally, not feeling well. So we have to begin to open up the body like those onion layers, right? Letting them off one at a time, setting the stage with that transformation. And then have that initial protocol introduction, that welcome protocol to really like, okay, here's some just basics to get some things moving in the system. Because sometimes your body is so toxic and blocked that some of the supplements need to like open everything up, open the liver, open the gut, open the emotional pathways to get things moving. Okay, optimizing drainage pathways for for detoxification. And I'm going to talk about what you might not know what even that is, what a drainage pathway is. So I'm going to talk about that. Okay, we can think of our body as a tube, right? So we have our mouth and everything goes in that we eat and water and drink and everything moves through the body, like through that tube, and then it goes out. And drainage pathways are things in the body where we eliminate. For instance, we have the colon, right? Things moving out through the colon, our fecal matter, things through the kidney, we filter through urination. Our lungs, we eliminate through breath, getting that CO2 out of the system. We also have our skin where we sweat and eliminate toxins, right? These are our pathways for healing of detoxification. And so what we want to do is we want to support those pathways. So we want to understand how our body is efficiently removing toxins. Maybe, for instance, let's talk about one of those pathways. Maybe, again, constipation is a good one to talk about because it's very common and people understand it, right? If you've been having constipation for a long period of time, then those toxins build up in the system because you haven't been eliminating, right? It's like that tube I talked about gets stuck. So we have to open it up and get things moving using enzymes and probiotics and liver, using maybe a pancreatic enzyme, using castor oil packs. We want to open up the system to get things moving. We want to open those elimination channels, ensuring proper liver. Liver is super important for cholesterol, for blood sugar balancing, as well as hormones. It's important for the kidney. Okay, the kidney, like I mentioned, that urinary elimination pathway, and then colon function for fecal matter. And also, we want to make sure that the lymphatic system is moving. We want to encourage circulation. That's our immune system, right? So if we hold up our skin a little bit, all that little fluid under there is our lymphatic system. And if that's not flowing, we're going to have a harder time fighting off little or big immune things that come our way, like a cold or a flu or a virus. So a great way to do that is skin brushing. That's a really wonderful way to address, and I'll make a note. I'll send out the skin brushing handout since I just mentioned that. At the end here, I'll add them in or send them out on a recap email. We'll do that with the team. And then also, I just mentioned the castor oil pack handout. That's a really great one. Both of those things are really, so the castor oil is going to help decrease inflammation and help with elimination. And then also the lymphatic flow is going to help with the immune system, get also the venous system moving. And then we want to optimize organ function, strengthening the body's natural cleansing system, right? Detox, getting everything moving. It's always better when you sing, right? Detox. Okay, mitochondria. So these are the little batteries that I was mentioning earlier, like your body being a battery in that chronic disease state. So mitochondria, if we talk about think of a cell that is filled with, oh, look at that, it made little heart signs when I did that. That's funny. So when we think about mitochondria, they are batteries in the cell. And the cell has organelles, and within those are the mitochondria. So we have tons of those in the cell. But as our body starts to age and become fatigued, we have less of those mitochondria, which creates more fatigue. So when we address the mitochondria, we want to boost cellular energy projection. We want to fuel every function in the body, really getting those mitochondria functioning at 100%. We want to enhance the efficiency at the cellular level. So that cell that is now functioning optimally with lots of mitochondria will then replicate to have more cells with more mitochondria. We want to optimize nutrient utilization. So sodium, potassium, magnesium, things that go in and out of the cell, phosphorus, right? Really want to make sure that the nutrients going in and out of the cell are opening the cell up to allow it to detox and bring in the nutrients. We want to improve energy levels, reducing fatigue and increasing resilience, right? And that's that battery. I want to make sure that battery is functioning like the Energizer Bunny. Go. So stronger mitochondria mean more energy, and that's key. Because if you're trying to heal yourself, right? You're on this healing journey or you're trying to get better. If you don't have energy, how can you get better? How can you expect your body to heal if you don't have energy to make food, or you don't have energy to exercise, or energy to even call a friend, energy to watch a TV show, right? Okay, nervous system balance, key to healing. You probably, if you've been following me for a while, I talk a lot about the nervous system. So this is all about stress. So we want to regulate the stress response, reducing chronic cortisol overload. So cortisol is our stress hormone. It's super important for as one of our hormones for regulating sleep and melatonin. Very important, and the adrenal system. So I would say that most of my patients have an aspect of cortisol overload, either or deficiency that we're working with because their body is so fatigued. Supporting neural health. So, I want to strengthen brain and nerve function. This is the aspect of the chronic disease point I was mentioning in the beginning about brain fog and cognition. Improving sleep quality, enhancing rest and recovery for deeper healing. We have to reset that sleep button, right? Sleep hygiene using maybe blue light blocker glasses, going to sleep early, turning off those screen times, maybe using natural sleep aids, right? Doing a lot of sleep hygiene to really, because when we're in the sleep mode, we're resting and rejuvenating. Our body is healing and really needing that time. That's when we heal, is it? We're healing during the day, but we're doing lots of things, right? Our body is on, and at night, it's our restoration time. Enhancing the mind body connection. So promoting resilience and emotional well-being. Okay. All right, let's check in and see how everybody's doing out there. On this slide that we're talking about here, neurosystem, give me a thumbs up if you have been having some stress in your life over the past month. Well, let's say February or 2025 so far. Or if you are feeling like, oh, everything's good and groovy. Maybe you want to put a little yoga emoji in the chat. So pop that over and let me know how your stress is. Okay, healing unresolved trauma, huge aspect of chronic health conditions. Clarissa said, thumbs up. Things have been a little stressful on her end. Yep, I get you. I am right there with you. But the managing stress is key, right? So when we're knowing, they're like, okay, things are a little bit stressful, whether that's our health, our stress, stress, our emotions, our finances, our family, all of it together. Then we have to relearn how to understand stress and have a different stress response. So our stress is not so elevated. Addressing emotional components, right? So that's a huge part of trauma. We have to understand how past experiences impact our health. And so that's about really looking at our timeline of health. What was there a particular moment in time? Let's say, for instance, ever since my parents got divorced when I was 5 years old, I always had stomach issues, right? Is there something you can pinpoint back to an emotional and a physical component? Healing past wounds. So releasing stored trauma. Where is that wound in your system? Is it an emotional wound? Is it a physical? Was it actual something that happened physically? Like, did you have a car accident and hurt your back? You're like, and going through that trauma, releasing the physical and the emotional components. Supporting the mental wellness. So cultivating inner peace and emotional balance, right? How are you at peace with your system? Are you at peace with the trauma that happened? Maybe you don't really recognize it as trauma, right? How are you addressing it emotionally? Are you putting it up on a box on the shelf and you're like, I'm never going to even look at that. I can't, right? I just can't even go there, right? That's not healthy. We have to be able to address something to be able to acknowledge it, release it, and let it go. Building resilience. So strengthening your ability to handle stress and thrive, right? As I mentioned earlier, we have to learn how to handle the stress. So then when it comes our way where we can bounce back, we're like, okay, I got this. For all of those of you that are tuning in from Asheville, right? We had a crazy 2024 and so still some of us are still suffering from the hurricane, right? Now in 2025. So it's like that. How do we bounce back from that stress, right? Sometimes it's hard to get out of it. So how do we then bounce back? And then how do we get back on track and thrive? Circadian rhythm, sleep. I talked a little bit about this in the nervous system. So optimizing our sleep and wake cycle. So to make sure that we are lining our body with its natural clock, trying to wake up when the sun comes up and maybe not right now going to sleep when the sun goes down because it's 6 o'clock, but not staying up till midnight, right? Getting into that natural rhythm as much as possible. balancing our hormones. So regulating our cortisol, that stress hormone, our melatonin, those that cortisol and melatonin are synergists. They work synergistically. Melatonin helps us to go to sleep at night, and other key hormones that help with balancing stress and sleep. Improving our energy patterns, right? So when we sleep a proper amount of hours a night, like in that 6 to 8 range, we're going to reduce fatigue and promote sustained vitality, right? And when you look at your sleep, I want you to look at, are you sleeping through the night? Are you waking up? For me, I use an Aura ring to track, and I find it very helpful because it shows me if I'm two parts. It shows me my stress, how my stress is, and it shows me my sleep too. How much time did I actually go into deep sleep? Was I really restless? Was I able to sleep well through the night? There's lots of different things. And so I like it because I can track it and see how I'm doing. And then if I'm not doing well, I'm like, wow, why am I waking up so tired? I can look and actually track and say, oh, here you go. My stress was higher and I'm really restless. Okay. For me, recently, just a little side note, I was taking melatonin and I realized I had started taking a lot of it because I was like, I'm not sleeping well. And I just was adding on a little bit more. And I was like, you know what? This isn't good for me to be taking. It's a hormone. And so I stopped taking the melatonin. I think it's been 3 weeks now, and I'm actually sleeping way better. So I think it was changing my sleep cycle. I think it was getting me into a deep sleep, and then I was popping out of that deep sleep, and then I couldn't go back to sleep. I'm doing some work regulating my own melatonin at the moment, and it could have been stress related too. Okay, and then supporting the natural rhythms, which I mentioned. Hydration, water. Another one you got to sing. Hydration. Who loves water? Pop over an emoji there of your favorite water, or maybe just a water emoji. As water is so key, let's talk about why it's so important in a chronic disease state. So, cellular hydration strategies. We have to have deep intracellular hydration for optimal function. If we're not getting into those cells and opening those cells up, they're going to be toxic. It's like you could think of them as a wasteland, right? A toxic waste dump. So, we got to open them up so they can move the water out. Mineral balancing. We have to have those minerals I was talking about, sodium, potassium. Thanks, Clarissa. She popped a little water droplet in there. Yes, totally, right? Got to have water. Mineral balance, sodium, potassium, magnesium, calcium. Got to have those minerals because that helps our body to absorb. It helps with energy, metabolism, and it also helps our nervous system, especially magnesium. And that was the other thing that I personally did. I was telling you about my melatonin experiment. I'm always experimenting with myself. And I realized I hadn't been taking my nighttime magnesium. And so I stopped taking the melatonin and I increased my magnesium, and I've been sleeping much better and doing some magnesium salt baths, some foot baths, and using magnesium oil to really help my body to absorb magnesium. Electrolyte optimization. Yes, I love electrolytes. I'm drinking some right now. There's lots of different kinds. If you're interested in some electrolytes, I have a lot in the office that I can give away for free. You can just send me a message and I'll send you a box. If you just pay for the shipping, I have grapefruit, LMNT electrolytes. They're a little bit on the salty side. They're high in sodium. So not for everyone. You can check with me first, but I have a lot of them. Electrolyte absorption enhancement. So improves mineral uptake for sustained vitality. Genetics and methylation. This is a huge one. One of my favorite things I love to talk about, genetics. So we want to understand our genetic influences. And if you haven't had a DNA panel done, I highly suggest it. It helps us show different things with the MTHFR gene, the COMP gene. There's so many different genes we can see if they're turned on or turned off in the body with a DNA panel. I use DNA company 3x4. It's great. It gives us a lot of information and it's inexpensive too. I think it's either $2.99 or $3.99. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. How your DNA impacts health and healing. Super important. We want to support the methylation pathways. That's how our body has over 300 enzymatic reactions that we use in the methylation process, which is huge. So methylation means we're adding a methyl group in chemistry, a CH3 compound, onto a enzymatic reaction to methylate it. So we use manganese and vitamin B, methionine. We use a lot of things to support that methylation pathway. Enhances detoxification, and it's good for neurotransmitter function, so everything in the brain, and helps with DNA repair. Optimizing nutrient utilization. So we want to ensure proper absorption for energy and vitality, right? Are we absorbing things because of our genes are turned on or off? Are we having, let's say, for example, a vitamin D absorption difficulty in your genes? You're like, man, no matter how much vitamin D I take, my numbers never go up. That could be an actual DNA absorption problem with your genetics. Personalized protocol adjustments, right? We want to look at you as an individual, not a cookie cutter aspect, tailoring things that support you based on your methylation and your genetics. And your genes aren't your destiny. By supporting methylation, you can optimize your health at the root level. Okay, hidden infections. This is a huge one. Teeth. Oh my gosh, I've seen so many patients who have had teeth that were infected and causing systemic problems within their body. So optimizing your oral health, addressing gum disease, root canals, and hidden dental teeth issues. Identifying and addressing hidden infections. So if there's something going on in the teeth, we want to address it. And if that means being on an antibiotic or doing a mouthwash or getting that tooth pulled. Supporting immune function by strengthening our body's defenses if there is a chronic infection in the mouth going on. And then that helps reduce that toxic burden, reduce that load. Because you can think if you have an infection in the mouth, it's constantly having this infection going on, moving an infection in through the body and elevating that toxic load. Healing the gut. I talked about this a little bit. The gut is key, right? I usually start in the gut when I work with patients because everything starts in the gut. And we want to eliminate harmful bacteria, yeast, and parasites, number one. And we can see that through a stool test. That's a super easy way for us to see what's going on there and addressing it. Supporting gut integrity. So strengthening the gut lining to prevent leaky gut. So key. If we have this colon that has these cells that are tight and they start to loosen up, everything leaks through in that leaky gut, and then it causes inflammation into the bloodstream, causing systemic problems. Balancing the microbiome, so promoting healthy bacteria for optimal digestion and immunity. So key. And enhancing digestion. Are you breaking down things with the enzyme, with the hydrochloric acid in the stomach? Because we want to break things down and absorb them. Mold, my gosh, mold and mycotoxins. If you suspect mold in your house, especially if there's people from Asheville tuning in tonight and you had hurricane damage and water damage with in your house, making sure you don't have any mold, key. Or if you live in a wet environment or a basement, you got to check it. Put some emoji over there in the chat if you're worried about mold, maybe a sad face if you think you might have some mold in your house and you're thinking you might have mold toxicity. So we want to recognize and identify symptoms for mold. We want to support detoxification of the mold through liver, kidneys, and lymph system, like I mentioned before. This helps eliminate the mycotoxins. Andrea, that's a good one. OMG, total, right? OMG mold. Enhancing immune response. So strengthening the body's defenses against mold-related inflammation. So mold causes inflammation in the body. And you're like, why am I so inflamed? It causes depression, anxiety, gut problems, sleep problems. It's skin problems. Environmental optimization, reducing mold in your home and workplace. When we lived in Seattle, which was it's very wet there, we had black mold in our apartment. It was like growing on the wall. It was so gross. And so I contacted the apartment manager and I said, you got to come and get rid of this mold. And so all they did was they came down and painted over it. So I didn't really get over it. So Dave and I, we detoxed that when we moved out of Seattle. It's lots of sun that helps too. Okay, heavy metals, huge one. Understanding your exposure and sources, identifying common environmental and dietary contaminants, supporting safe detoxification, utilizing gentle, effective methods to remove heavy metals. Super important, right? You want to help them eliminate clearly and easily through the body. We want to enhance elimination. Again, those elimination organs, liver, kidney, and gut, removing those heavy metals like aluminum, mercury, lead, arsenic. We want to build that cellular resilience. Why did you get the heavy metals in the first place? Was your mitochondria, the energy system compromised? Was your immune system compromised? So we want to look there as well. Okay, great. So I want to talk about the longevity program. So those are the key pieces that we're looking at with chronic disease. So I created a longevity program. This is a 6-month program that addresses all these components, which is amazing. And so the longevity program, what it does is it goes through month by month each of these phases. So we have progressive healing protocol, step by step. We have building on each phase. So we're going to build on each phase one by one. Detoxification, mold, infections, right? So that way you learn about them, learn what's going on in your body. My goal with the longevity program is to teach patients how to understand their body, to look at their body in a new way and understand it, right? So it's not just this mystery, even though we're all a mystery in some level. Comprehensive support. So a guidance from me, team, right? The community and expert insights, right? I'm guiding you and helping you figure out what your blueprint is in your chronic health situation. Targeting interventions, personalized strategies to address root causes and optimize longevity. So the longevity program is to provide the highest level of support, right? So that way it's like really key in one, providing personalized support. That's another thing I find is that there's not enough personalization, individualization. It's still the group healing is key, but there needs to be both components of your blueprint for healing. Progress monitoring, right? So keeping track, like, okay, maybe you suspect you're having, or you not suspect, but you feel like you're having fatigue. And so over the 6 months, monitoring it and tracking it and figuring it out, right? Keeping maybe all you have to do is write it down. Okay, scale 1 to 10. How am I feeling today? Taking 1 second, right? And then monitoring that in a journal. Protocol adjustments, refining things as we move forward. Okay, this is happening. How do we change it and shift it to that next stage of healing? Ongoing education. So I'm going to empower you with knowledge throughout the course over the 6 months so that you feel empowered with all those things I talked about. So you understand them in your system. And of course, using evidence-based methods, because that's one of the things that I love talking about is evidence-based methods using a science-backed approach. So research-backed approach is grounded in the latest scientific studies and clinical data, using functional medicine principles, addressing the root cause, integrative strategies, so blending holistic, naturopathic, and my medical expertise, along with different energy work, mindset, body, meditation, all those things together. And traditional wisdom, honoring ancient healing practices that have stood the test of time. Dun, dun. And then the transformation awaits. I love this picture. I want to be there. I don't know where it is, but I love it. Okay, so what does that look like, right? So we, again, have that systemic, this strategic approach. And that is one, looking at the root cause of chronic illness, understanding and identifying. Two, we want to have systemic healing, a step-by-step process tailored to you so you understand what's going on. Cellular regeneration, supporting the mitochondria, like I mentioned, and bringing that energy at the deep cellular level. Sustainable wellness, having habits that aren't just you're going to do it this day and never do it again, right? Something that creates sustainability for your health, and then long-term health transformation for continuing through the program and beyond. So if you're ready to take your health to the next level and address, here's the things we're going to be addressing, right? Addressing the root causes of your symptoms, and finally finding real solutions. Transforming your health systematically, right? Going step by step. Over those 6 months, we're going to have something we're learning each week and talking about it. Learning powerful healing strategies backed by science and functional medicine, joining a supportive community to understand that others are going through the same thing or have gone through the same thing as you, and reclaiming your vitality and being for a healthier, more vibrant you. And that is a wrap. Oh my gosh, another beautiful picture. I love that. I don't know whether that is too, but that looks amazing. New Mexico, maybe. Yay. Okay. So thank you for joining. I'm going to take questions in just a minute too. I appreciate you taking the time to invest in your health with me today, whether you tune in live or you're tuning in later. I have a couple things. If you need a check-in with me, you're like wondering, okay, what's going on with my body? I need some insight. schedule a free 20-minute health assessment call. And let me put it in the chat here. I have the link. And schedule. You can also share this with someone. If you're a BFF or maybe your partners, you've been trying to get them to really figure out what's going on with their body, maybe you can share the link with them. Okay, let me put it in here, the chat, here we go. Okay, here's the link for the free health assessment. Okay, and then there's also, where'd it go? You can still see that. Okay. Then with the longevity program that I just mentioned, the next cohort is starting on April the 7th. And you can use longevity at checkout and save $100. And I'm going to put that link over in as well. And you can follow it and read more about the program. Okay. And there's the link for the longevity program. And to connect with me, if you have questions after the webinar, you can email info@doclulu.com. You can, of course, visit my website and follow me on Instagram for all the fun things that I talk about and I'm sharing every day. And thank you again for being here. Your transformation starts today, right? We want to not put it off. We want to start today. And I think that was the last slide. This one. There's one more, just questions. Yay. Okay. If you have questions, did you put some in the chat and I missed them? You can put them again. Drop them in there. Anything I talked about. I know I talked about a lot of stuff, right? Anything around chronic health? Do you have anything about your health journey or the longevity program? Anything? Any burning questions? You can always, of course, DM me on Instagram and ask a question there. I have some questions that people put in last week that I'm going to be answering in my stories this week. Any questions? You can also go I can have you put your video on if you'd like to answer or ask me questions face to face. Hello out there? No? No questions? Okay. I know I answered, I think, as we were moving along. Let me ask you a question as you're still tuning in. Oh, there was another message. No questions, but love this information. You're welcome. Let me ask you two that are on tonight, and then the other of you that have signed up and are tuning in later. What's a takeaway that you saw from some of the chronic disease information that I talked about tonight? What was something that stood out to you? Was it maybe the mold? Was it something about the nutrition? Andy, she says mold. Yeah, mold is, I know I think I need to talk a little bit more about that on my social media. I'm going to do some of that this month. This month is all about micronutrients. I'm going to be talking all about micronutrients. So if you're wondering about micronutrients, vitamin B, D, etc., this is a great time to tune in and learn. Anything else that stood out? Clarissa, what about you? What stood out for you? Anything you're like a light bulb, or you're like, oh, that's totally me? Red flag. I think the thing that stood out for me is my sleep. Always working on my sleep. I'm always looking at it at a deeper level and how can I sleep better? How can I have more restful sleep? That's one thing I love about the Aura Ring. It really helps me to identify things at a deeper level, like I mentioned. And I'm not promoting them. I don't like make any money off them or anything. And Andrea said, yes, chronic fatigue. Yeah, that's a huge one. And sometimes it's hard. That's the hardest piece, to get the energy back up when you're in that chronic state of disease or chronic state of health. Don't really like the disease term because it's a dis-ease, right? I prefer that's like just a state of mind or state of health. Clarissa said, we had a lot of hurricane damage when a tree crashed into our house. Oh, I'm so sorry. I'd not consider the danger of mold. Yeah. So make sure that you're checking that or putting in a filter. I like the molecule one. That's good. You might be able, I know that, I think it's the Discover Asheville is the Instagram. She was posting a lot of stuff about getting mold testing done. I don't know if she found some free testing, but you could look around in your area and see if you want to have somebody actually come and test your house, or you could just look around and see if you have mold, visible mold or mildew, or smell it, right? But yeah, especially if you're getting something, a filter is good for that. And then, yeah, Andrea, especially when you can't eat. I know, yeah, that's a big one when you're tired. Yeah, totally. Okay, thank you both. It's 6 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in. And for those of you that are tuning in later and watched it, I'm so glad that you were here. I'm so grateful that you tuned in and also that I could share this information. I hope you learned a lot about how your body is in a chronic disease state, right? And how to get better and some tools to help you that I talked about today to move through, right? Think about those foundations of health: water, sleep, stress, nutrients, right? What can we give ourselves at that cellular foundation level? Okay, thanks again for tuning in. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your evening, and I'll see you soon. I'll be announcing the April webinar as soon as I finalize the date soon. So keep an eye out for that. And I'll hopefully see you. If I don't see you before April, I'll see you soon. Have a great one.